Peace, family, real quick. Heads up. Again, disclaimer on today, real quick. Today's message is going to be directed to two people, man. Of course, you already know us, primarily, race first. You already know how we do. Secondly, man, we're going to send this message out to Wazungu themselves, man. So with that being said, before we get into our breakdown, the way we do it, I want y'all to sit back and listen to Wazungu himself tell y'all what's really going on. So with that being said, today's breakdown is going to be entitled Slaves versus Indentured Servants versus Prisoners of War. Sit back. Walk with me the way I walk with you. You already know how we do. Man, this is R&M RBG TV. This is your brother in Google. Now you see R&M. I'll see you in a minute. Uncle Jobson, that Hutu up on Black Power, family. What up? It's your brother in Google. Now you see R&M. And once again, tuned in to R&M RBG TV. We keep it G. Raw and uncut common sense for the common people. Dealing with the common issues, family. You already know we trying to seek those common solutions. It's my favorite part, y'all. So all in together now, family. Say nice, light, and proud. What's the method? The motto, mantra, motivation, and the madness. You know this already, family. So say it with me, man. You already know right now that it's black love. And why is that? Because black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. Alright. We're gonna have to slow some things down again. Let me throw this little disclaimer out right here. This particular episode is twofold. It's geared at us, of course, you already know. I talk to us primarily, you already know, race first. Right? But then it's also geared towards Wazungu. You already know every so often we gotta talk to them too, because they're some silly mofos, you understand? But mainly it's pretty much the Wazungu of the internet paradigm. Not necessarily real life, because you already know how things go down in reality when we out here in these streets, for real, for real. Folks act totally different. But that's another story for another conversation. What we want to talk about today, real briefly, I'm going to try my best to be as brief as possible. I'm not going to go too deep into it, because at the end of the day, I do want to leave some mystery for yourself so you can go on and do your own homework, do your own research. You can see exactly what the hell I'm talking about. But for the most part, we're talking on... I haven't figured out a topic title, but what we're dealing with is the whole famous argument, the first argument that normally loves to come up in conversation when dealing with Wazungu, white folks, Europeans, whatever you want to call them, online. That is the famous quote, "You people sold your own selves into slavery," quote, conversation, argument. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're gonna bust that up real quick. We're going to break that down, bust that up, pass it around, and be done with it. So I'm getting sick and tired of hearing this shit. And I know y'all are too. So, before we even get into that, let's pretty much break down a few words. First and foremost, slave versus an indentured servant versus a prisoner of war. That might be the title. Who knows? I might rock with that. Slave versus indentured servant versus prisoner of war. What are the differences, right? That's pretty much it. So, like I said, we're going to break that down as simple as possible. A slave, nonetheless, a person who's pretty much held against their will at all costs, can't do nothing at all without basically the overall permission or allowance from somebody else. You're under somebody else's control, you're under somebody else's will, you're under somebody's every beckoning call, if you will. To no type of benefit towards you or yours, behind you or around you at all. Everything that you do, everything that you work for goes towards that of your quote-unquote master. That is dealing with slaves, right? That's dealing with the whole slave thing, whatever, right? You're tied to your master, nonetheless. Dealing with the indentured servants, your indentured servants, nonetheless, are folks that they're pretty much hired to do a job. I'm gonna say it like that. They're hired by way of some sort of arrangement or deal between two parties, let's say two tribes or two nations or two sets of peoples or whatever, nonetheless, right? One happens to be in debt to the next. In order to pay that debt off, they offer up some of their workers, if you will. Again, these are not slaves. They offer up some of their workers, their employees. I'm gonna say it just like that, their employees, to knock off that debt. But normally this is about a good 4 to 7 year period. And in this time period, this is the difference between the slave and the indentured servant. The indentured servant, like I said, it only lasted 4 to 7 years. Dealing with slavery, whatever, that was pretty much a lifetime thing. No matter how long that may have been, how long or short, it was a lifetime thing. Once you was in it, you was in it. Indentured servants, like I said, they had a short period of time or a set period of time. They were paid a wage. It was a small percentage. They had good clothing, good room and board. They were taken care of. They were pretty much, if you will, another part of the family to an extent. They were taken care of. They were good money. They really didn't have to worry about anything. Yes, they were doing a job for somebody else on the behalf of their people who was in debt to the next people. But nonetheless, everything was A-okay. They worked their job. At the end of their term, at the end of their 4 or 7 year term period, they went back home to their people. Everything was still intact. Their culture was still intact. Their names and their languages were still intact. Their families were not broken up, etc., etc., etc. Right? Prisoner of war. A prisoner of war is a person who is held captive, right, by an opposing army, tribe, nation, whatever the case may be, that happened to be at odds, at actual war times with one another. During that fight, somebody, like I said, everybody doesn't necessarily die. Everybody's not necessarily a casualty. Some people get caught up. Some people get held captive. Those become prisoners of war, held for ransom, this, that, and third, eventually let go. Right? Once their people get their shit together, whatever the case may be, whatever that ransom is, they own up to it, they pay it off, boom, bang, their people come home, end the discussion. Now, dealing with Wazungu and friends, dealing with this whole you sold your own people into slavery bullshit, let me break this down very simple for you slow mofos who act like you don't know, because you know you do. You study us more than we study anything. So let's be real. Don't act like you don't know what it is. Don't act like you don't know what you own do, what you're capable of, what your own tactics were. Don't throw rocks and hide your hand, because at the end of the day, when you pull it back, it ain't pull it back fast enough because I still see your hand. So I'm about to discover it right now. I'm about to explore it right here. How it all came about. First and foremost, you already know African people, black people, we're a warm, welcoming people. That's how we naturally flow. When we come in contact with people outside of the kingdom, outside of the tribe, or whatever the case may be, they're not necessarily always shunned off. They're not always brushed off to the side or whatever. Sometimes they're welcome. More times than many, they're very much welcome. They're embraced. Yada 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 yada. You know how we do. These folks, I'm gonna be real with you. Everybody has this misconception too that they all came in with the gun off the break. That's not necessarily true. They came in smiling. This is how they got us right here. They came in smiling. They got us with them teeth, right? Skinning and grinning. That's how they got us. So they came to the shores. They hit us with the whole, try to be a friend, this, that, and the third. Again, us being us, we accepted it. Silly us at the time, I'm be real. That was some silly shit. We should have had our guards up. We should have had defenses up. As time goes on, now we started to get forceful with it, right? The guns come out, the big guns come out, literally, cannons and all this other stuff, which was seen as new magic, different type of magic to us that we have never seen. We have never seen these type of weaponry. We've never dealt with this type of resistance, assault, all the above. Never dealt with it. Now, we've had our own tribal affairs. We know this. This is historical fact. Black people have always had our tribal affairs. Africa has never been a utopia of, beauty and all. Not when I say beauty, I'm talking about the romance that people love to put onto it. As far as Africa was this all-out, peaceful, no war zone, no drama. That's not the case, family. Again, we had our issues. We had our tribes versus tribes, our country versus country. No problem. We have to own up to that fact. That's real talk. But the biggest difference is this right here. The opposing tribes, right? The opposing armies or whatever the case may be. Those that lost that battle or that war or whatever the case may be, that assault, that engagement. Those that lost. Again, everybody didn't die. Some folks lived to tell the story. Some folks became prisoners of war who ultimately became an indentured servant there in that the oppositional land. Excuse me, the oppositional land. They became prisoners of war, thus indentured servants, in order to work off that debt that they lost to that other tribe or whatever. They had to pay their debt off. They worked it off. They went home. They went back to their families. Again, their languages were intact. No culture was disrupted. They lost the battle. They lost the war. They had to pay a debt. They went over there, did what they did. They paid their debt. They came home. Case closed. Now, getting back to Wazungu. Again, they came in first with the teeth, with the smiles and all that shit, right? That's how they got us. 2, they came in with the guns. The whole get down and lay down scenario or whatever. Again, we're not used to this type of defense at the time. So when they came in, it was like this. All right, you got us, whatever the case may be. I really don't know what to deal with this, but we ain't going to just give you our people. This is where it gets tricky because everybody likes to say that we just gave our people away. Again, Africa was never this utopia of mass oneness. Let's get this clear, family. Let's get this crystal clear. We had tribes. We had different countries. Sometimes these countries and tribes and nations or whatever were opposed to one another. If they were outside of that particular kingdom or realm or whatever, they were opposition. Let's be clear. But the warfare that we had against one another was nowhere by far comparable to that which we faced back then and to this day. Nowhere then. So again, they came in. One more time, family. First with the smiles. 2 with the guns. With the get down and lay down. But to go back to the get down and lay down, this is how folks started end up getting down. Those prisoners of war that I told you about again before, from the opposing tribe or the opposing nation, whatever, those who lost and those who were in debt, this is what we did. Those white folks, they then said, all right, cool, we started to set up a system, this, that, and the third, and, again, they come in with that trickery. They want to set up shop wherever they at, back across the water or whatever, and we looking for workers. This is what they came basically saying. We looking for workers. They tricked us, family. We fell for the trick. Stupid, silly us. We fell for the trick. So the workers that end up becoming enslaved, because they did not take slaves, they took smart people, they took African people from other tribes, but they were brilliant nonetheless, right? They were not slaves, they were enslaved. Two totally different things. Those Africans in which they enslaved were from another tribe, another people, a losing people, if you will, that lost that battle, that lost that engagement, that assault, that war. So they were looking for workers. We said, certain tribes said, the winning tribe or the winning nation, okay, you want workers, I'll give you some of our workers that we've acquired from a battle, from another battle, whatever. And of course, us being naive at the time, we're thinking they're gonna go, do their job, come back on home. As time goes on, we start to realize and notice the family ain't coming home. Nobody showed up. They all left, but ain't nobody came back. Nobody seemed to come back. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Folks ain't coming back. This is where the whole slavery process takes place. The whole transatlantic slave trade takes place. This is what that happens. Again, family left off, thinking they was going to go do a job, coming back. But because these folks have no integrity, have no honor, you understand? None of the above. Any type of accolades that deals with that area right there, they have none of that shit. We get what we get. We get what we get. We get what we have today. The physical enslavement of Africans now, which is evolved or de-evolved rather, into the mental colonization, occupation, and enslavement of African people by way of the same people, Wazungu and their descendants. Again, they do the same things to today's family. They'll come through with the whole smile. They'll smile around you. And then they'll trick you. They'll swindle you. They hit you up with some type of tricky words, some shit that you don't understand. Next thing you know, you end up in a situation that you don't understand how you got into, nor you don't realize or understand how to get out. You got swindled. That's where we at right now, family. So don't ever fall victim or feel sorry when they try to hit you with the whole, oh, you sold your people into this, that, and the third. Nah, fam, keep it 100. Keep it 100. Again, Africa was never no big giant utopia, but at the end of the day, what we lived and how we operated was something totally different compared to what we deal with back then and right now from these same people. You feel what I'm saying? Again, here and all over the globe. Same people, same things. Ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed, family. But one day you'll realize it and you'll see it. You'll act accordingly. You feel what I'm saying? You'll get it. One day you'll get it. One day you will get it. Like I said, that's pretty much the overall breakdown, man. It's that simple. They came in, they hit us with the swindle, trick folks, we in the situation that we in right now. We didn't just come up and say, hey, white people, here you go, take my people, do what you want to do. It's not that case, because that's the type of narration, that's the narrative that they put out there. And again, they have a lot of our people feeling guilty about what's going on. They have a lot of people feeling guilty about their heritage and their purpose, nonetheless, as African people, all based on this one freaking lie and myth. Let's keep it real. So the more you fall victim to the lie, the more you fall victim to the myth, the more you give the lie and myth life, the more you give them life, nonetheless. The more and more you give them control over your mind, family, which is the greatest weapon of all, fam. Look up Steve Biko and see what he said about it. Gut check. So with that being said, we're going to leave it just like that, man. They swindled you, family. They swindled me. They swindled us. It was not what they say. It ain't what they say at all. So if you want to fall victim to that, man, you on your own with that one. But in the meantime, between time, keep it locked, keep it G, man. This is RNMRBG TV. You already know we keep it G. Uncle Jobson there, who to up on Black Power. Always remember that black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. Be smart, think smart, walk smarter, pass that smartness on, man. Peace, love, and black power. Let's get it and take it to them. Don't ever fall down, man, on your sword. Black power. What up? I'm back real quick. I'm leaving out. That's something I'm leaving out, and I think it's important. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know where I'm about to go with it. But just follow me nonetheless, because we got to put this on the table too. Now, in any group of people, in any organization, clique, crew, whatever you want to call it, family members, whatever, you're always going to have some turncoats. Let's be clear. Again, Africa was never no utopia of all out. We have to be clear. We had internal issues. We got internal strife. Just like how we got right now today. We got a lot of internal issues that folks don't want to acknowledge. That way we don't even clean it up. So we can't clean up some shit that we don't know about, right? But dig it. Along with the swindle, along with the word games and the wordplay and the smiles and all that other shit, right, that they came and hit us with. Not only did some folks, like I said, the ones that went over, were they prisoners of war from other situations and other engagements dealing with other tribes and nations or whatever. But you also have to be clear on this one. You had some all-out straight-up coons back then too. Check. Every African was not African-minded. I'm going to say that again. Every African was not African-minded back then, just as much as today. All skin folk ain't your kinfolk. Just back then, just as much as today. Just because we look alike, don't necessarily mean we think alike, no, so speak alike, of course, not walk alike. Because if this is already going two different ways between brother and brother, sister and sister, and so on and so on, this and this will follow. So that's what we had to also deal with, man. We had a lot of, I ain't gonna say a lot, but we had a decent amount of turncoats. We had a decent amount of coons, if you will. We had a decent amount of tap dancers, buck dancers to save face. And not for nothing, I ain't trying to throw no shot, no shade, but this is historical fact. You can go back and turn any page in history or whatever, and nonetheless, the ones that always got the advantage over their so-called people, or should I say the ones that resemble, they always happen to have a weapon in their hand and some funny looking ass hat on top of their head. I'm gonna just leave it at that right there. Gotcha. But nonetheless, folks work with the opposition to save their own ass, and then turn around, place the burden upon other Africans that, one, just look like them, two, act something totally different, because they were trying to then act like their masters. They were better at that than the white folks themselves. Look around today, you'll still see some of the same things. And I'm not just talking about the ones with the funny hats. I'm talking about a lot of black folks in general. You got a lot of, like I said, you have a lot of Africans who are not African-minded. So they're quick to turn you over to the opposition. They're quick to dismiss you. You feel what I'm saying? For their own come up, to save their own skin. And then later on want to talk about how much we're the same people. But again, that's another conversation for another topic. But I just wanted to come back real quick, and I had to throw that in there, man. I had to bring balance to the situation, because you saw what I had dealt with earlier, but I had to speak on this one as well. So therefore, you can add it up, put it together, man, do your own equation, man, and you get the answer you got, fam. It ain't that hard, man. Thinking ain't illegal, living black ain't wrong. Common sense shit. But in the meantime, between time, keep it locked, keep it G, man. This is RNMRBG TV, man. It's your brother in Google, nice to see RNM. Uncle Jobson there, who to up on Black Power, family. Always remember that black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. When you got that black love, ain't no turning each other over. When you got that black love, you'll defend each other from the next mofo trying to come in. So there'll be no turncoats, and there'll be a major defense, a united black front. You understand? Keep it locked, keep it G, man. RMLBG TV, man. I'll see you on the next one.